All right, everybody. Good afternoon. Hope you guys are doing well today. And let's get to our rooting guide post mortem. Usually I do this video on Tuesday, but given that yesterday was the trade deadline, I decided probably a good idea to push it off and just worry about trade deadline stuff for the most part yesterday. But let's take a look at where the Seahawks stand and where the rest of the league stands, and basically just kind of judge what there is to think about. Now, the trade deadline's over and the Seahawks made their move, so we don't need to really think about, oh, we want this team to lose because if they lose, they're more likely to look to trade somebody. That's obviously over. And that gives us one less dimension to consider, but there's still plenty of stuff to think about when you're trying to judge what you want to happen in these games. Real quick, back in 60 seconds. All right, guys, let's take a minute so I can tell you about Sleeper, a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat on sports games in real time with other users. You can get the fastest scores, blazing fast sports news and sports alerts right at your fingertips. And of course, you can use Sleeper to play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. This is the way sports were meant to be enjoyed together. So download Sleeper today. Use promo code SBN to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. And you can pair that with another promo they have right now where you can get a $20 entry free with no deposit required. So get both of those things going. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper today. Get to it and go have some fun with sports this year. All right, welcome back. So, like last Thursday's game, the Ravens-Dolphins game, that's a game where, in hindsight, we can say that one didn't really matter to the Seahawks, right? Because the Seahawks didn't trade for anybody from either team, so there was no like, oh, we want the Ravens to lose because it makes it more likely they're going to blow it up at the deadline. Like, that doesn't really matter now. At the time, sure, but looking back at it, I mean, the Dolphins traded Jalen Phillips to the Eagles. Maybe we would have preferred the Dolphins win this game, so they were less likely to do that. But they probably would have done it anyway, honestly, so whatever. But yeah, that's an example of a game where there's not really much of an angle. It's just a game that happens, and the Seahawks don't really have much of a stake in anything. Okay, so let's jump to Sunday. Obviously, we don't need to talk about the Sunday night game. But these other games, just to get a general sense of where things are, I think that the big picture for the Seahawks, like the big, and I am going to call this a concern, although I think it's a pretty minor one. The concern is that the NFC is getting crowded with partial contenders. And this week, that was kind of the story here. The Bears winning, the Bears coming up with that phenomenal win, puts them at 5-3. They're definitely in the mix now, and I don't think they're going to go away. They're a flawed team for sure, but they bring a lot of positive things to the table as well. So I think that Bears team is at the very least, they're going to be in the playoff race. And then you've got like the Vikings-Lions game, Panthers-Packers game. I don't think either of these results were bad. I think it's fine. The Lions, they get knocked down a peg. The Packers get knocked down a peg in these significant upsets. I'd call them significant upsets. And in the case of the Packers especially, that's really big, right? That's really big. I thought the Packers were going to be the NFC juggernaut this year after they got Parsons, but it doesn't look like it's happening. Not saying anything about Parsons, of course. Parsons is great, but you look at a team like the Packers now, they've lost to the Panthers at home, they lost to or they tied with Dallas, they lost to Cleveland. They're not running roughshod over the NFC the way I might have thought. And the Lions, I think we all kind of expected the Lions were going to fall off a little bit this year because they lost so much of their brain trust in the offseason. But the the thing going on here is that you weaken two of the teams that looked like they were near the top of the NFC. And right now that's good for Seattle. So it's good results. The thing to keep in mind, though, and I think the thing that you take away from these 3 games, really, these teams that are kind of lingering on the outskirts of playoff contention, they kind of got back in the fight this week. Especially a team like the Vikings. If the Vikings had lost this game, they'd be 3-5, and they'd, given what's going on with them at quarterback, excuse me, they would have had very little reason to be confident going forward about their team. And the Panthers too. The Panthers now have a winning record more than halfway through their season. So those are teams that they're not necessarily going to make the playoffs, but they're part of the conversation. So the Seahawks got good results from these 2 games, but if they slip, it could bite them in the behind later because there's not as much of a soft cushion to land on at the bottom of the NFC. Like last week when I made this video, what I pointed out was it really felt like there wasn't really a lot beneath the top 6 or 7 teams in the NFC to worry about. Like it felt like it was going to be Philly, Tampa, Seattle, Green Bay, LA, Detroit, and then probably San Fran, even with all their injuries. And then it didn't feel like any of the other teams were a big threat to like sneak in and possibly knock one of those teams off. But now you have the Bears, the Panthers, the Vikings. It could get there could be a scenario where a team like the Niners, like the Lions, or like the Seahawks or the Rams, or really almost any of these teams, except maybe the Eagles because of their division and probably Tampa as well, that could suddenly look up one day and they're like, wow, we're actually out of the playoffs now with 10 wins because the bottom part of the playoff picture for the NFC got so crowded. We blinked and suddenly we were just done. So that's kind of the main takeaway, I think. It's good if the Seahawks continue to roll, but if the Seahawks slip, there's a lot of teams that could be coming for their spot. And kind of like last year, you could win 10 games and still be left out if those teams continue to win. Other than that, Chargers Titans doesn't really matter. I mean, I guess we play the Titans, but it doesn't matter that much. The important thing is you beat the Titans, and they're not going to win very many games this year, and whatever. It's not going to help your strength of schedule that much. The Falcons losing is good playoff-wise. Of course, this is turning into a little bit of a disaster in terms of the draft pick situation with the Rams, but we're just going to have to live with that for the time being, I guess. But the Falcons are obviously fading out of it quickly. They're the 13th seed right now. Now, their record isn't terrible, so it's not like they can't dig their way out of this a little bit, but they don't look like they're a playoff team right now, that's for sure. Niners, Giants, obviously not what we would have preferred, but certainly wasn't much of an opportunity to expect anything else to happen. The Giants were out of it anyway, and we ended up not trading with the Giants anyway, so whatever. Not much to say there. Steelers winning, though, was actually good, and I kind of felt this one coming just a little bit. We beat the Steelers this year. That's a strength of victory point in our favor that we want to keep getting as much out of as we can, I think, at this point. So we want the Steelers to win pretty much every game they play, and that's that. Broncos, Texans. We kind of want the Texans to keep winning because we beat them. Again, it's just that strength of victory thing, but it didn't happen. I don't think there's another angle for this game, but not necessarily what we were looking for. Jacksonville gets the win. That's good because of strength of victory because we beat Jacksonville, and the Niners didn't. That could end up being like a tiebreaker at some point down the line with the Niners. Saints, Rams, I don't think we were expecting any help here, but we certainly did not get it. Maybe the Saints losing this game pushed them to move Shaheed, so I guess that could have been good, but I think they were going to look to move those guys anyway. Chiefs, Bills, whatever. And Cardinals, Cowboys, this is another example of a good result, but it can bite us in the butt if we don't take care of our business, because I view the Cowboys as a bigger NFC threat than the Cardinals. So I was happy that the Cowboys lost because at this point they're basically defanged. But now the Cardinals, little bit of life. And now they've got the Jacoby Brissett thing going, which that could end up rolling in their favor. I do think that he probably makes that team better, even if he's not necessarily a better quarterback straight up. I think he's better for that team right now. And I look at I look at this Cardinals team and I think to myself, okay, they're kind of sort of in the mix-ish if they beat us this week. So I think it's good that the Cardinals won this game, but we need to take care of them or else it becomes a little bit of an issue. So Seahawks take care of business this week and beat them, it's good. But we may end up regretting this if we don't take care of our stuff. So yeah, right now there are 10 relatively, I'd say at least semi-legitimate teams in the NFC. Now, one of them is the Niners, who are incredibly injured, but it seems like they're going to be able to hold their head above water enough to still get what they need in the in terms of winning games. So there are going to be some pretty decent teams left out. Now, maybe the Bears fade, maybe the Panthers fade. I definitely could see the Vikings fading, but right now they're credible. They're doing some things really well, and they deserve some real props, and they deserve some real credit for being here right now. So that's the way I see things right now. The Seahawks have to keep winning. It's like last year. 10 wins is probably not going to do it. I think 11 wins will do it, but 11 wins might get you the 7 seed and a quick first round exit. So you got to keep racking up the wins. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. More stuff soon.